You're listening to the audio production of Heroes, Dreamers and Saints, 365 True Stories of Faith and Courage by Amy Kerr. Published by Thomas Nelson and read by Simon Bubb. Introduction. Heroes, dreamers and saints are all around us. From literary figures to artists to athletes to scientists to saints and more, this devotional explores the many people who have helped shape Christianity, have showed their devotion to God in helping others, and have made a difference in the world. This interesting and fact-filled 365-day journey through history highlights notable Christian and Catholic figures who have made a difference in the world, such as Martin Luther King Jr., Wilma Rudolph, Florence Nightingale, St. Dulce of the Poor, Fred Rogers, and so many more. Each entry explores a new person and includes a scripture, a devotional reading, a fun fact, and a prayer to help you apply what you've learned as you go out into the world. Each person in this book will inspire you to love Jesus more and to share his love with others. As you listen to these stories, remember that everyone, including you, can be a hero for Jesus and change the world for the glory of God. January the 1st. Wilma Rudolph, 1940 to 1994, United States. A bigger purpose. Let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 2. When Wilma was 4 years old, she got a disease called polio. Doctors said she'd never walk again without a leg brace. Her family prayed that God would allow her to walk again. When Wilma was 9, she removed the brace and took her first unaided step. At age 11, Wilma could walk easily. She joined the school track team and began winning races. At 16, she won a bronze medal in track at the Olympics. 4 years later, she broke world records and won the Olympic gold. The entire time, she asked God, "What is my purpose? Surely it isn't just to win gold medals." After retiring, Wilma went overseas to help others. She visited Japan with the preacher Billy Graham to tell people about Jesus. She coached high school track and mentored college and Olympic athletes. Wilma inspired others to reach for a bigger purpose. God, help me to remember the bigger purpose you have for me. January the 2nd. Antonio Vivaldi, 1678 to 1741, Italy. A good stop. Let us not grow weary in doing what is right. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. A priest as well as a talented composer and violin player, Antonio became a violin master at the Ospedale della Pietà, a home for orphan children in Venice. Antonio taught the girls at the Pietà to participate in the orchestra and choir. It wasn't long before a tourist's visit to Vienna included a must-see concert featuring the girls. Antonio's talent for bringing a group together and coaching them became evident. As more people found out about the Pietà, more people donated to the home and the children there were provided for. Antonio eventually departed the school for other opportunities, composing more than 600 works in his lifetime. But his stop on the way to musical greatness brought goodness to many children. God, help me to do good on this big adventure called life. January the 3rd. Saint Geneviève, circa 422 to circa 500, France. Blessing others. Pray without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 17. From the time she was 7 years old, Geneviève dedicated her life to God. She faithfully shared her faith with others. At age 15, she became a nun. She looked after other young women who had devoted themselves to God. When Paris experienced a famine, Geneviève travelled to another town by boat to bring back corn for the hungry. King Clovis listened to Geneviève and freed certain prisoners at her request. When another army threatened Paris, Geneviève counselled the city to pray for God's protection instead of running. The army suddenly turned away from Paris. Because of Geneviève's great faith in God, many people began to believe in him too. God, I want my faith to cause others to know you as well. January the 4th, Michael Faraday, 1791 to 1867, United States. Show your spark. Be strong and bold. It is the Lord your God who goes with you. Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6. Michael's dad was a blacksmith and was often hurt on the job, so Michael left school at 14 to work for a bookbinder. One day, Michael started reading a book he was binding about electricity. He was fascinated. He tried experiments using methods in the book. One day, Michael got to hear a scientist talk at a school in London. He listened and took lots of notes. Michael sent a letter to the scientist, hoping he could work as a lab assistant. The scientist didn't have any jobs, but he didn't forget Michael. When one of his lab assistants was dismissed, he invited Michael to work for him. Michael became a pioneer in studying electromagnetism. Almost every electronic appliance we use today, from cars to phones, relies on the principles Michael discovered. God, give me courage to boldly put myself forward for new roles. January the 5th, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, 1906 to 1945, Germany. Enduring faith. Whenever you face trials of any kind, consider it nothing but joy, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. James chapter 1, verses 2 through 3. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a brave pastor in 1930s Germany. People were talking about how much they hated Jewish people. Bonhoeffer knew this was wrong. Government leaders, called Nazis, were forcing Jews out of their homes and into small neighborhoods without enough food, water, or space to live. It became unsafe for Jews and for anyone who disagreed with the Nazis. Should I leave Germany and go somewhere safer? He wondered. Ultimately, he decided to stay, to resist the Nazis' actions and to help the Jewish people. He got some Jews to safety in Switzerland and spoke out against the unfair treatment of the Jewish people. Dietrich's resistance ultimately cut his life short. Bonhoeffer's selfless efforts show the courage we can have when we follow God to fight against hate. God, I want to be brave and to speak out against hate. January the 6th, Vincent van Gogh, 1853 to 1890, the Netherlands. Give what you have. Do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 16. Many know Vincent's beautiful paintings, but don't realize that he started painting because of his faith in God. In the winter of 1879 to 1880, Vincent had been doing mission work, living among the poor. He watched families struggle to find food to eat and coal for their fires. So Vincent did what he thought Jesus would do. He gave all his things to his neighbors. Even when he had nothing left, he wanted to give more. Around that time, Vincent started to paint and realized he had a new mission, to bring joy and peace through his art. Vincent's paintings are of beautiful fields of bright yellow sunflowers, clouds swirling in bright blue skies, and twinkling starry nights. They show the joy and hope he wanted to bring. God, help me give what I have to others who might need it. January the 7th. Rusty Staub, 1944 to 2018, United States. Meet the need. Care for orphans and widows in their distress. James chapter 1, verse 27. Tell me what you need. Rusty said that phrase often, whether he was talking to an MLB baseball coach or to someone off the field. Rusty was a helper through and through. He used his bat to gather more than 500 base hits for 4 different teams in the major leagues, becoming the first player to do so. But more importantly, he used his platform as a ball player to help different groups that gave back to people in the community. He created an organization that helped the spouses and children of police and firefighters who died in the line of duty. He also founded the Rusty Staub Foundation, which gave food to children in New York who needed it. No matter where he was, Rusty's faith led him to look for ways to help others. God, help me see who needs my help today. January the 8th. Antoine Frédéric Ozanam, 1813 to 1853, France. Give back. Speak out for those who can't speak. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 8. Antoine loved God very much, but when someone asked how he had shown his faith, Antoine realized his faith needed to include action. He and a friend began visiting poor sections of Paris and tried to help meet people's needs. People noticed what a great help Antoine and his friend were. They were inspired to help too. Soon, Antoine and a group of helpers formed the St. Vincent de Paul to serve the poor, and their mission continues to this day. In 1848, more than 275,000 people in Paris lost their jobs. The government asked Antoine and his group to take charge of giving aid to the poor. Antoine spent the rest of his life seeking justice for the poor. They deserved respect, and their lives mattered to him and to God. God, I want my faith to be visible in my actions. January the 9th. Betsy Stockton, circa 1798 to 1865, Hawaii, formerly the Sandwich Islands. School of Thought. Let the wise hear and gain in learning, and the discerning acquire skill. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 5. Betsy was born enslaved, but learned how to read. In 1822, now a free woman, Betsy joined a voyage to what is now known as Hawaii, where she started a school. At the time, many schools were open only to important people, but Betsy's school was open to everyone. Betsy shared her passion for learning with her students. One day, Betsy's close friend became sick, so she travelled back to the US with her. But before she left, Betsy trained native Hawaiians to keep the school going. Betsy continued teaching in North America. She taught at an infant school, like a preschool, for black children in Philadelphia, started a school for indigenous children in Canada, and taught at a public school in Princeton, New Jersey. Betsy gave her students a strong foundation to help them make wise choices for the rest of their lives. God, I love learning about the world you made. January the 10th. Toyohiko Kagawa, 1888 to 1960, Japan. Fighting for peace. Pursue peace with everyone. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 14. As a teen, Toyohiko enrolled in a Bible class to learn English, but soon after he became a Christian. He continued his Christian studies in Japan and then the US. When he returned to Japan, he spent more than 10 years living with the poor in Kobe. Toyohiko was a gifted writer and speaker. He began to share about ways people could change their lives for the better. Toyohiko.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.